What is means by homostasis? Homeo means similar, stasis means standing. So, homostasis is the maintenance of relatively stable internal physiological environment in an organism involving feedback mechanism. The key point here, the maintenance of stable internal physiological environment in an organism involving feedback mechanism. Okay, now, for feedback mechanism, before that, you have to know the importance of homostasis mechanism. Okay, the first ones, it will maintains optimal physical and chemical condition in the body. It will maintain the optimal physical and chemical condition in the body. Okay, the first one. The second ones, the second one is it's allow normal enzymatics and other cellular activity to be carried out. It's allow normal activity and other cellular activity to be carried out. And the third one is enable organism to live in different habitats. I repeat again, importance of homeostasis mechanism. The first one is maintains optimal physical and chemical condition in the body. The second one is allow normal activity and other cellular activities to be carried out. And the third one is enable organism to live in different habitats. Okay, I repeat again, importance of homeostasis mechanism is maintain optimal physical and chemical condition in the body, is allow normal enzymatic and other cellular activity to be carried out. And the last one is enable organism to live in different habitats. Okay, feedback system here, look here. First, we have a receptor. Receptor, function of receptor is monitor changes in parameters and sends information to control centers. Receptor, first, feedback mechanism, first is receptor. It monitor changes in parameters and send information to control center. The second one is control center. Control center, it will evaluate the inputs received from receptor and generates output commands in form of either nerve impulses, hormones or other chemical signal to effector. And effector receive output from control center and produce response that changes the parameters. Again, receptor, it will monitor the changes in parameters and send information to control center. Control center will evaluate the input received from receptor and generate output commands in form of nerve impulses, hormones or other chemical signal to the effector. Effector receive output from control center and produce response that changes the parameters. I repeat again, receptor, it monitor the changes in parameters and send information to control center. Control center, it will receive output from input, evaluate input from receptor and generate output command in form of nerve impulses, hormones or other chemical signal to effector. Effector receive output from control center and produce response that changes the parameters. Okay, okay, and then tengok ayat dia. Each monitor, okay, tak ada apa salah. Okay, receptor monitor changes in parameters and send information to the control center. Control center evaluate the input it received from receptor and generate output command in form of nerve impulses, hormone or other chemical signal. Effector receive output from control center and produce response that changes the parameters. Okay, now we move to feedback mechanism. Okay, feedback mechanism involving the effector response by either depressing negative feedback or enhancing positive feedback. The control condition feedback mechanism involve the effectors respond by either depressing negative feedbacks or enhancing positive feedbacks. The control condition. We move first to negative feedbacks mechanism. Okay, the key point here is homeostasis mechanism that stop or reduce the intensity of original stimulus. We have the original stimulus. It will stop or reduce the intensity of original stimulus. Okay, so the outputs is used to reduce the inputs. The outputs is used to reduce the inputs. Okay, example is regulation of body temperature. If your body temperature is higher, there must be a negative feedback mechanism to reduce your body temperature. Okay, homeostasis mechanism that stop or reduce the intensity of original stimulus. The outputs is used to reduce the inputs. Example is regulation of body temperature. Okay, move to positive feedbacks. Ayat yang sama pakai homeostasis mechanism that enhance the original stimulus. Homeostasis mechanism that enhance the original stimulus. The outputs is used to enhance the inputs. The output is used to enhance the input. I repeat again. For negative feedback mechanism, homeostasis mechanism that stop or reduce the intensity of the original stimulus. But for positive feedback mechanism, homeostasis mechanism that enhance the intensity of the original stimulus. The outputs is used to reduce the input for negative feedback. But for positive feedback, the output is used to enhance the input. Example for positive feedback mechanism is secretion of oxytocin during childbirth. Okay, example of positive feedback mechanism is secretion of oxytocin during childbirth. Okay, positive feedback mechanism, a feedback mechanism in which the response to enhance the original stimulus. The output is used to enhance the inputs. Example is secretion of oxytocin during childbirth. Okay, if the question asks you what is the differences between positive feedbacks and negative feedbacks mechanism. Okay, negative feedback mechanism is a homeostasis mechanism that reduce or stop the original stimulus. But for positive feedback, okay, example of negative feedback mechanism is regulations of glucose level in blood. Okay, glucose level in blood are monitored by cells in islets of Langerhans in pancreas. I repeat again. Glucose level in the blood are monitored by cells in islets of Langerhans in pancreas. So, the normal, if the blood glucose level exceed the normal level is known as hyperglycemia. Okay, but if the glucose level fall below the glucose level known as hypoglycemia. Tinggi, kalau blood glucose level tinggi, kita panggil sebagai hyperglycemia. Okay, kalaulah blood glucose rendah, kita panggil sebagai hypoglycemia. Okay, hyperglycemia mean that blood glucose level that exceed the normal level is known as hyperglycemia. Abnormal fall in blood glucose level is known as hypoglycemia. Okay, now we move to beta cell islet of Langerhans of pancreas. It can detect the increase of glucose level. Okay, beta cell of isolate of Langerhans of pancreas can detect the increase in glucose level. Okay, beta cell, it will release insulin into the blood. Beta cell will release insulin into the blood. Okay, after that, insulin is distributed to all cells, especially liver, muscle, and adipose tissue. Okay, I repeat again. Beta cell of isolates of Langerhans of pancreas can detect the increasing in glucose level. Beta cell release insulin into the blood. Insulin will be distributed into three places: liver, muscle cell, and adipose tissue. Okay, function of insulin. The first one, increase the uptake of glucose by body cell to be used in cellular respiration. Function of insulin, the first one is increase the uptake of glucose by body cell to be used in cellular respiration. The second one is they stimulate the conversion of glucose to glycogen. We call as this process we call as glycogenesis in the liver and muscle. Okay, stimulate the conversion of glucose to glycogen in the process of glycogenesis in the liver and muscle, and glycogen is stored in the liver and muscle. Okay, stimulate the conversion of glucose to glycogen in the process of glycogenesis in the liver and muscle, and glycogen is stored in liver and muscle. Okay, and then it will stimulate the excess glucose converted into fat and stored in adipose tissue. It stimulates excess glucose converted into fat and stored in adipose tissue, and blood glucose then decrease and returning to its normal level. I repeat again. Beta cell isolates of Langerhans of pancreas can detect any increasing of glucose level. Beta cell will release insulin into the blood, and then insulin distribute to all cells, especially liver, muscle cell, and adipose tissue. Function of insulin, it will increase the uptake of glucose by body cell to be used in cellular respiration. Okay, it stimulates the conversions of glucose to glycogen in the process of glycogenesis in liver and muscle. Okay, we can find glycogen in liver and muscle. Okay, the third one, it will stimulate excess glucose converted into fat and stored in adipose tissue, and blood glucose then decrease and returning to its normal level. Okay, therefore, when the increasing of glucose level is detected by beta cell of isolates of Langerhans. Okay, when blood glucose level is low, it will detect by alpha cell isolates of Langerhans detect the low glucose level. Okay, alpha cell release glucagon into blood. Okay, beta alpha cell release glucagon into blood. Okay, function of glucagon is it will stimulate glycogenolysis in the liver. Okay, what it means by glycogenolysis? Glycogen is broken down into the glucose. Glycogen is broken down into the glucose. Okay. Okay, in certain condition, when glycogen is depleted, glycerol and amino acids are converted into glucose in the liver. Okay, glucose level will increase and bring the glucose level to normal. Okay, now I repeat again. When blood glucose level is increased, what happen is beta cell isolates of Langerhans of pancreas can detect the increase in glucose level. Beta cell release insulin. Insulin will distribute into three cells, mainly three cells. The first one is liver, muscle cell, and adipose tissue. Function of insulin increase the uptake of glucose by body cell to be used in cell respiration. Second one, stimulate the conversion of glucose to glycogen in the liver and muscle. Okay, after that, it will stimulate excess glucose converted into fats and stored in adipose tissue. Blood glucose then decreases and returning to its normal level. Okay, when blood glucose level is decreased, what happens is alpha cell of isolate of Langerhans of pancreas can detect the blood glucose level low. Alpha cell release glucagon into the blood, and then function of glucagon, it will stimulate the glycogenolysis, mean that glycogen convert to glucose. Glycogen is broken down into glucose. In certain condition, when glycogen is depleted, glycerol and amino acids are converted into glucose in the liver. Okay, and then glucose level will increase, bring the glucose level to normal. Okay, here, look here. Insulin, beta cell in pancreas, release insulin into blood. Okay, stimulus, blood glucose level rises.